Hi everyone, and welcome to week 3. I hope you're all having a good Monday, and hopefully it's sunny wherever you are. It's very, very sunny and nice here in West Lafayette. Feels like spring. So this week, what we're talking about is donor relations, specifically prospect identification, and then talking about sort of the donor life cycle and how we get from identifying prospects to having someone be a consistent donor or becoming a major donor. And so this cycle that is widely adopted, there are some variations within the fundraising sort of community, but usually even if someone has 4 categories or more categories, they very much relate to this. So number one is this idea of identification, or who are your potential donors. So I think that one mistake that a lot of nonprofits make is they limit themselves, or they don't realize who their potential donors are, or they rely solely on their existing donor pool and don't take the time to think about who are all of the people, who are the organizations, who are funding entities, such as people who give grants, foundations, those kind of things. So this is a really, really important part of the process. Then once you have that sort of broad list, you look at you move to the next page, which is qualification. How likely are they to get? So for example, if I am working at, let's say, Food Finders, work for Food Finders Food Bank, which is our local agency that deals with food insecurity, and they run many of the um, food pantries, do a lot of different programming. So in some ways, potential donors is everyone who lives in our community, right? Because people have a vested interest. Now, from that, obviously, some people or organizations or groups are going to be more likely than others. And what we want to do to maximize our time and have the highest potential return on the investment of our time and energy is identifying then, okay, who's going to move that? Then we build a relationship with them. Notice we're building that relationship before we're actually getting a donation. So thinking about how can I interact with potential donors? How can I expose them to what we are doing? Once we have that relationship, then I ask for money. And then the stewardship is ongoing. So I think many times our fundraising reverses, right? Because we identify people and we say, okay, send out a thing, send out a a mailer, try to sell these tickets. And we neglect this kind of cultivation part of it. And often when we do these kind of fundraising outreach type things, there is some sort of relationship that we might not even be aware of. And it might be people have past experience, people maybe have a personal attachment to the given issue, those kind of things. So, first of all, where do you find potential donors? And this is really about networks and people and communication. So, the best way to find donors is, and we will talk later about donor software and buying lists and those kind of things, but the best thing to do is to start with the people that are already a part of the existing organization and go out from there and feed their networks, right? And so the idea is, and I think we were talking about this in the discussion last week. One of the things we talked about is that you need, and also in the first week, the people closest to your organization need to be strong advocates. So they also need to be happy and feel appreciated, and they'll spread the word. So existing employees. So you might think, employees, why would they be a source? Well, one, potentially they would be interested in donating their own money to the organization, but also they have friends and family members or are a part of other groups or organizations. And if they're an employee of your organization, they will very easily be able to tell people about what you're doing and what the mission is. Then you have your volunteers. So these are maybe people who come in and offer their time, but have not yet converted over to financial donors. So at Meals on Wheels, we see this a lot. We have our delivery drivers who drive routes, which is essential, and we need that, but potentially they could become donors. And yet again, they might know of people who don't have the time to drive routes, but would be happy to sponsor meals or do those things. Then your board members. This is a huge part of being on a board of directors. This is also why when you are recruiting for a board of directors, you try to get people from different areas within the community, partly because they have expertise. So, you generally want to have someone in law, someone in finance, maybe someone in communication, but also if they're from different areas in the community, their networks broaden. And then you have your key stakeholders. And this is where you sit down and say, who is invested in this? And so partly it is, what is our cause and who are we serving? What other organizations in the community support what we're doing? Maybe they benefit in some way from what we are doing. Who are the government people? So again, taking some time to sit back and say, okay, where is kind of the map? Where is the web of potential donors? Now, that being said, oftentimes that last strategy, it's always going to be important, particularly at a local level, at a locally based nonprofit. Even if oftentimes, for example, our Meals on Wheels, we are an affiliate of the national organization. So we do get some money in different ways through people who donate nationally, but we spend our time focusing on how do we get people from within our own community to donate directly to us. There is a ton of donor research software you can pay. There are, you can get lists of people within certain zip codes, and they will screen them out by household income, age, I think education level. There's a lot of things, and depending on what it is, it becomes more and more sophisticated. So those are at the individual donor level. Oftentimes there will be a database of, some of this is free, but often you will have to pay for grant opportunities, for foundations, for organizations. Most organizations have giving programs, and many give at the local level. So for example, Walmart here in town, or I would assume in the same in your town, they have a yearly grant program that supports nonprofits, and they have a few key areas they focus on. They also have been they're very good about, if you have an event coming up, you write a letter, they'll give you gift cards, they'll do in-kind donations, lots of things. But anyways, the point is, depending on the amount of money your organization has and what their needs are, you could use or purchase a program that will identify key prospects. So once kind of we have that, the next thing is you want to get the sweet spot of a donor. So it's not just that they live in their community. So the three things that an ideal donor has is they have an affinity. So they care about and support the mission of your organization. And that's where I was saying sometimes that relationship, even if it's not directly with your organization, they have a relationship with the issue. So many times people who are deeply concerned about animal welfare will tend to donate broadly to those. Some people have been impacted by a certain health thing, such as cancer or heart disease. Again, is it children? Is it education? Is it the arts? So I have the affinity. Do I have the ability? So do I have the financial means, particularly if we're looking for larger donors? And as we talked about earlier, this idea of identifying what the ability is and asking sometimes to that level. So even if you're having a fundraising event, instead of just saying, hey, can you buy a ticket? Hey, can you buy a table, right? And then they'll invite people in. And then the last thing is access. So do we give them an easy way to donate? Do we give them a way to come into our organization, whether it's online giving, whether it's withdraw? If any of your companies participate in United Way, there's a ton, it's such an easy way to access. I can just have it deducted by my paycheck, and then that goes out and supports the community. Once we have kind of identified and we've started we want to work up the ladder. So here is this reverse pyramid. So we have the universe of prospects. And as I said, how do we create a relationship? And so, and some of this kind of overlaps, but oftentimes when we're recording that first time donor, it could be through direct mail, telemarketing, a fundraising benefit, social media posts, social media ads, just sort of raising awareness, or maybe the fundraising benefit is something that's really fun for them. One of the things we have done in our community is we have in the summertime, they like have a downtown kind of outdoor kind of gallery rock, and there's food trucks and things. And pre-COVID, we would have a table and we would ask for no donations at all. It was simply informational, so people could pick up information about our services and what we did, and we had some free giveaways. So the first contact is sometimes very superficial. Now, once someone has donated, we want to continue to cultivate and strengthen that relationship. So sometimes that's personal contact, a letter, a thank you, email acknowledging your donation. It could be a phone call from a board member or an employee, and you see it goes up. The other thing that it's really helpful for us, as soon as someone donates, they automatically go onto our mailing list, and we have a monthly newsletter called the Prime Times that updates everything that's happening at the senior center, everything that's happening at Meals on Wheels. It has a copy of our activity calendar on the back. So once someone donates, they can see directly what their money is doing, and they can continue to support us. So again, a lot to think about, but it's actually really exciting when you think of all the prospects. So in addition to the discussion this week, you will submit your final project proposal, either as a group if you're in a group or as an individual. Now this is brief, 2 pages. And again, I think it's a real skill to be able to do this in the space allotted. And so basically what you're going to need to identify, and there are specifics in the assignment, but who the organization is that you're choosing. And again, identify, is this a local organization? Is it national, statewide? You know, kind of who are they? What do they do? What is the problem that they're facing? And then kind of your proposed ideas. And so that's a really important thing as you're choosing an organization. I would caution you against, for example, St. Jude's, they're very, very successful. Now, maybe something has happened in the last year that I'm unaware of, but maybe an organization where you see they need something or they're lacking something. Maybe again, it's a local organization, they don't even have a strategic plan. And just real briefly, give me the ideas, because obviously in the full proposal, you will flesh all of that out. So if you have any questions this week, just let me know, and have a good